Hi, my name is Logan, and today I'm going to discuss the implications of cultural misappropriation on the Native American community. American music is a collection of sounds and lyrics from many different genres and cultures that an artist brought together for people to enjoy. The problem with this is it leaves open a very real possibility that the culture they are representing or they're using as inspiration is going to be appropriated. And we've seen this happen many times within our history with blackface and, most importantly for us today, redface. The act of redface is a non native person taking on the racial archetype of a Native American character. Singing redface is just the act of redface, but through song. And while our society has relatively recently realized how problematic blackface is, redface is just now becoming a real issue because the Native community is fighting back. A good example of redface is the song Indian Reservation, The Lament of the Cherokee Indian by Paul Revere and the Raiders. The song was released in 1971, and at the time, they got very little pushback for its lyrical decisions. It's based on a song by the same name by Don Farden, who recorded the song The Paleface Indian by Marvin Rainwater and gave the song this new name. The most problematic lyric in the version recorded by Paul Revere and the Raiders, in my opinion, is I'm still part red man deep inside. I believe this because the term red man is one the Native American community took on themselves in the beginning days of Native European trade. But as time has passed, the term has been used to degrade Native American people. There were many ways in which Paul Revere and the Raiders attempted to make their version of the song less problematic, such as taking out lyrics of Ponto speak, taking out the second person narrative that Rainwater had put in because he was a part of the Native community, in an attempt to sound empathetic of the Native community. But because they still left in problematic lyrics, they were really showing idealized sympathy, which means they were showing sympathy to the Hollywood stereotype that we all know and associate with the Native community rather than the actual community. Racial antipathy is an academic synonym for racism and is extremely problematic when it comes to the misappropriation of the Native culture. A prime example of this is actually on the Broadway stage. In the musicals Oklahoma by Rodgers and Hammerstein and Annie Get Your Gun by Irving Berlin, the Native characters are stereotypical to that of the Hollywood Indian, which in itself is problematic because it symbolizes the 562 recognized tribes as a singular being. Within both of these musicals, the Native Americans were treated as though they were primal beings. Now, you may be wondering why Broadway had such a strong influence on the public's belief. And the truth is, if these musicals were performed today, they would not have the same pull as they did when they were released during the 1940s. During the 1940s, Broadway was gaining its first major popularity spike. And at the same time, it was a huge player in the entertainment industry, just the same as Hollywood was taking off. But the problem was, not a lot of people were able to afford TVs in their home. So therefore they would watch Broadway or listen to Broadway in an attempt to get entertainment. And another problematic part of our culture is that we play Indian. And that's something we do when we're children, and it's because we weren't taught any differently. On the playground, we play cowboys and Indians, and then if the Cowboys don't win, then it's seen as something bad, and the Cowboys start throwing a fit, and it becomes not a game. And another problematic part of it is that on Halloween, we have costumes such as the sexy Indian and this stereotypical Halloween Pocahontas dress, when in reality, not many Native American tribes actually wore that type of clothing. Um, and all of this is problematic again because it creates confusion around the Native American culture. And we're never going to be able to truly understand the Native American culture and truly appreciate it if we don't break the cycle that we've set within our society. Blackface ministry. It's the act in which white people used entertainment to further place superiority over African Americans during Jim Crow. In terms of the Native American community, an example of this would be the term Indian giver, which is a term that we see all the way back to Lewis and Clark when it was just a misunderstanding of the trade system and the economic system that the Native Americans had. And as a society, we use this term with negative connotations because we also don't know why that we don't we aren't taught why that term exists. Therefore, we don't know that it's wrong to use it. And to really understand the actions that I've mentioned and why they're problematic, we have to discuss the idea of cultural misappropriation. which is the intentional theft of tangible or non-tangible cultural commodities by an outsider with the intent to be used for economic gain or to intentionally create a stereotype. And a good example of cultural misappropriation that most people know is the Disney movie Peter Pan, specifically the representation of Tiger Lily and her tribe, the Pickaninnies. The problem that can be immediately seen is that the tribe speaks in grunts. They don't have a tangible educational language. And that's something that Native communities have. Native tribes have educational languages that they understand and they can use to communicate with others. Um, and another problematic part of the portrayal of the Pickaninny tribe is their powwow drumming and singing. Powwow is not just hooting and hollering in weird tones. No, there is a significant part to what they sing, what tones they sing it in, and the drumming. There's a significant part that comes with the drumming. It is Native Americans will tell you it's the feel that they have with the land. And what happens in Peter Pan is you get a singular straight pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4 with the drum beats, and you don't. And while that does happen within powwows, there's usually something that happens called an honor beat, and you don't hear the honor beats within the Pickaninnies powwow. And the last thing that's problematic about Peter Pan is it follows the Hollywood stereotype that I've already mentioned that we see from John Wayne movies that many people, especially people from the South, have watched since they were children, in which we don't realize that it's wrong for us to listen to them. That what we see is wrong because we aren't taught differently. And for society to completely begin to understand the Native American culture, we have to listen and we have to see that what we've been taught since the beginning of us being shown the Native tribes and Native community on screen is that that's wrong. That's not who they actually are.